Hello friends, Megan here.
And I'm Jessie.
Jesse has exciting news. He is going to see Carl the Crazy Crocodile on ice with his friend Sam.
No, I'm not. Sam is not my friend anymore.
What? But you were so excited. What happened?
I let Sam borrow my Koala Karate Squad video game and he scratched it. Now it won't work. I was about to battle the Kung Fu Koala Master to win the game, and the game froze. I will nether the Karate Master. I'm so mad at Sam.
Jesse, sometimes people do things that hurt us or make us angry, but forgiving them is the right thing to do. Listen, in today's Bible story, Jesus told a parable or a story to teach about God's forgiveness. Let me tell you about it. You may change your mind. Peter had a question for Jesus. How many times should I forgive someone? Peter asked. 7 times? Jesus said, not just 7 times, but 70 times 7 times. Then Jesus told Peter a story. He wanted Peter to know what forgiveness is like in God's kingdom. One day, a king called for his servants. How much money do you owe me? The king asked. One of the servants owed the king 50 million silver coins. The servant did not have 50 million silver coins, so the king said that the servant and his family would be sold instead. The servant begged the king, "Please give me more time. I will pay you back what I owe, I promise." The king felt sorry for the servant, so he let the servant go and forgave his debt. The servant did not have to pay the king anything at all. Then the servant saw a man who owed him 100 silver coins. He grabbed the man and said, "Give me my money." The man begged the servant, "Please give me more time. I will pay you back what I owe, I promise." But the servant did not forgive the man. He threw the man into jail. Some other servants told the king what happened. The king called for the servant he had forgiven. "You are an evil man," the king said. "You owed me more money than you could ever repay, and I forgave you. But that man owed you a little bit of money, and you did not forgive him." The king was angry. He punished the servant and made him pay back all the money he owed. After Jesus told the story, he said, "This is what my Father in heaven will do if you do not forgive each other." Because of our sin, we owe God more than we could ever repay. We deserve to be punished, but Jesus came and died on the cross for our sin. He was punished instead of us. He paid what we owe God. When we trust in Jesus, God forgives our sin, all of it. We can forgive others because God has forgiven us so much.
Hi friends, it's Teacher Laura here, and I am very glad to be with you on your screen this morning. In our video today, Peter asked Jesus how much he should forgive, and he really wanted an exact answer. We don't know why he asked this, and that reason really isn't important. If I use my imagination, I can imagine that maybe somebody had sinned against him and asked for forgiveness, and he just wanted to know how many times he had to do it. When we make choices that aren't of God's way, that is what sin is. Sometimes our sins don't hurt other people, but sometimes they do. So a long time ago, the word sin actually had to do with archery, which was shooting a bow and arrow, which is kind of like this right here. It's bow and arrow. And in archery, when you practice shooting, you use a target, which looks like this right here. So do you see that little spot in the middle? That spot is called the mark. And that's what you are aiming for when you shoot your bow and arrow. And the word sin originally meant if you missed that mark in the middle. That was what it meant. So then it became what we think of as sin, which is when we are trying to live our life one way, but we do something different. We miss the mark of how we should be to each other. So friends, I will admit it, I sin every day. Sometimes it's in how I use my words. Sometimes it's how I act towards my husband or my boys. And sometimes I sin in my attitude towards God. It's not fun to say that out loud. It's really hard for me to say that. But I also know that everyone in the world sins every day, so I'm not alone. In the video that we just watched, we learned about a servant who owed a lot of money to a king. When grown-ups owe a lot of money, that's called a debt. So the servant had owed this really huge debt to a king. And even though the king didn't have to, he canceled the servant's debt. He forgave the large debt, which means that it went away. But then the servant, who had just had this huge debt forgiven, went and to another person who owed him just a little teeny tiny debt. And he was ready to put that servant in jail, which is what the king could have done to him. So remember, Jesus told these parables or stories as a way to tell the people around him about God. So in this story, God is like that king, and we are like the servant. So when Jesus died for our sins, he died for all of our sins, even the ones that we haven't committed yet. But we are still called to take responsibility for our sins by confessing them to God and to ask for forgiveness. Or you confess it to the person that you sinned against. Maybe you spoke really meanly to your mom. So you need to go confess that sin to her and ask for forgiveness. Without confessing our sins and asking for forgiveness, we become like that servant that owed the 50 million pieces of silver. It's too much for us to make up for with good deeds, which is why we have to ask for forgiveness. But then after we get forgiven by Jesus, if we turn and we hold grudges, maybe against our brother or sister for something mean that they did to you, if we hold on to that, and we hold on to that icky feeling of just being mad and angry at them, then we become like that servant who wanted to punish the other person that he thought owed him a little bit of money. I want to talk more about forgiveness in another video, but I do want to make clear that if you forgive somebody, it doesn't mean that what they did was okay, but it is modeling to them what God has done for us. God doesn't forgive us and then hold our sin over our head to make us feel bad again. He truly forgives us. He forgives us and then it's done. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that, maybe taught you some new things. I know I learned a lot. But we have our memory verse that we're going to do. So are you guys ready? Let's practice. We learned this last week. Psalm 78:2. I will speak using stories. I will tell of things that have been secret since long ago. Okay, one more time. I will speak using stories. I will tell of things that have been secret since long ago. You guys are awesome. It is a pleasure to do these with you, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.